welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, it is time for Wolfman, the new Leigh Whannel adaptation of the classic Universal horror monster movie. And we are live from downtown cinemas for this one and joined by returning guests, Nick Woods, Luella Chavez, and K.L. Martin. We have a lot of great puzzle pieces to get into on this one, a lot of great audience participation. It was a really fun show out there at Downtown Cinemas, and thank you so much to everybody who showed up. We will be announcing some more live shows very soon, but today we are talking Wolfman. Before we get to the show, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on social media at PiecingPod, and I'm recording this outro on National Popcorn Day, so I gotta remind you about our Facebook group, the Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces Facebook group, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. It's a great, fun, closed, and tight-knit community of movie lovers who just want to have a good time talking about movies. So come join us over there, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces on Facebook. So with that said, let's get into Wolfman. All right, so I'm David Rosen, the host of the Piecing It Together podcast. We are going to talk about Wolfman, but before we get into it, I want to introduce my panel here. First up, Kevin Martin. How's it going, Kevin?
Good. How are you?
I am great. Excited to talk about this one. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is K.L. Martin. I'm a professional screenwriter and filmmaker. I'm also very tall.
You are quite tall, actually. And everybody, let's orate for the people back there a little bit. But
I'll definitely lean back. There we go.
Right on. Luella, how's it going?
Good.
All right, tell people what you do, what you're up to.
What do? I'm an actress, writer, comedian, and I make my micro following on Instagram laugh.
It's always fun watching your videos on there. Of course, as we were just talking about before we hit record, we won't be posting our stuff on TikTok anymore.
No, we won't.
Yeah.
That's that.
That's a whole nother story. Over there, Nick Woods. How's it going, Nick?
I'm back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my name's Nick Woods. I'm a filmmaker here in Las Vegas and guy that started Sin City Horror Club, here, a local horror enthusiast group. Yeah.
Right on. So I think we all went into this pretty excited because Leigh Whannel made The Invisible Man a few years ago, and
so.
It was excellent. It was like one of the great movies, like right around the pandemic time, really, and then we kind of had that to kind of stay excited about while the influx of movies kind of slowed down a little bit. But you know, the Universal monster movie, like, experiment of trying to bring all this back has not really worked too well for anybody else except for him.
I blame Tom Cruise.
I know.
That's all Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they wanted to do that shared, and honestly, if The Mummy didn't happen, this would be a part of that. But, I mean, Leigh, as I was telling you before we started recording, he clearly has a unique and there's a love for these monsters for him.
Yeah.
I mean, Invisible Man was amazing, and this was pretty good, too. I came in there with kind of okay expectations, but I feel like it did way better than, you know, some of the stuff that I've seen on the internet and talked about it.
Yeah.
So I think it exceeded that.
Yeah, and I think, like, where the shared Universal monster movie, you know, universe hasn't quite worked, I don't want that. Like, I don't know why anybody would want that. Like, I want interesting new takes on these characters that have been done many times before.
For 100 or so years.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so let's do something exciting. And so if Leigh Whannel is the only person who wants to try that, I guess that's what we're gonna do. But so. For Piecing It Together, the concept of the show is we talk about a movie through the lens of what other movies might have inspired it. We call those movies puzzle pieces, and with these live shows, I'd like to just jump right in, get a puzzle piece out there, and then we'll go through a few rounds of puzzle pieces here. And I felt going into this one, this would be a little bit of a tough one to have an obvious one. I always like to kind of throw an obvious one out there to kind of kick it off.
And you're going to steal my obvious one.
He's going to steal my obvious one.
I'm not going to go with the Wolfman, so, I mean, maybe one of you guys will. But, you know, no, I don't know. I think it's kind of a tough one. So I'm going to go with one that I thought of The Shining.
Damn it, that's
All
fine.
right,
That was my
all
first
right.
one.
As far as, I mean, right from the get-go, the setup of this thing, this guy,
isolation.
he
Yeah.
wants to take his family to this isolated place to do this job. In this case, cleaning out his dad's stuff from the old house. Very similar to Jack taking his family out there to the Overlook, and then of course turning insane from there. And there was like a little bit of a kind of moment here in Wolfman where the other Wolfman shows up, and I was like, oh, I might have to throw this one out, because now we're kind of going in a
I
different
love
direction.
the two Wolfmans thing.
Oh,
I thought
that
It
was
ended up
great.
being great though, yeah. And then we do kind of get back to, oh, Dad's crazy again, and we gotta watch out for him. So we get a lot of Dad going crazy here, and I think that there's other movies we could maybe bring up too along the way, but I think The Shining is like
good one, yeah.
it's a good one to go with.
I mean,
Dad is crazy. Yes, that's one. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was almost shot the first 10 minutes, especially when they took that aerial shot of the truck riding down
Yes.
the road. It was almost shot for shot for the Shining, at least from the time they were both standing in front of the mountains to the time they actually went. Those first 10 minutes felt real familiar, and honestly, I think that was a pretty good idea. I mean, if you've watched The Shining as much as I've probably watched that damn movie 100 times.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, I feel a little comfortable right now. Like, this could be pretty cool. So, but it was definitely, that was the first vibe I got from the coloring to how it, once I saw that U-Haul truck or whatever that truck was and how it was shot, I was like, oh yeah, Leigh led with The Shining, and that was a good idea. I enjoyed it.
Was that your obvious one?
No, it wasn't. I'm glad it's not gone. I'm still in the game here.
We're still in the game. I
He
love
knocked
it.
me out real quick. I was
love
like,
it.
oh man.
One other thing about The Shining is, obviously with this being a unique take on the Wolfman mythology, like we don't really know what the rules are. And maybe if you read the Stephen King book, you know everything about The Shining. Watching the Stanley Kubrick film, you kind of don't know what's going on. You're just kind of thrust into this hotel and everything just kind of unfolding. So I kind of felt like they took a page from that here as well, where we don't really know.
They don't
what,
establish the mythology about it at all.
Yeah,
it
what
might be
werewolves
the only
are.
Wolfman movie that we've seen where they don't.
It is 100% the only Wolfman movie. Like, there was
That's
no
what I love
explanation.
about where I love
Zero.
werewolf movies. That's what I love about it, is they always establish the mythology first. But the only thing that they put at the beginning was a hiker situation, like on the scroll at the beginning. And of course, I thought of American Werewolf in London when they mentioned hiker immediately, but it wasn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
mean-
no, if without like the first half of the movie, if we didn't know the name of the movie and they didn't have that, I would have thought we were watching an alien movie.
Yeah, yeah. It could have been aliens. It could have been zombies. It could have been like so many other kind of genres, and then it is a Wolfman though.
And truthfully, one of the things that really jumps out in regards to that is, like, if you think about it, they kind of Batmaned us in terms of, like, okay, you've seen this a dozen times. 1941, 2010. I think there was one in between there. Like, all right, we don't need to go through this. If you don't know it, then this we're gonna. They really just jumped into it. Like,
Yeah.
there was like a little bit of like dialogue in the sense of, all right, they made the story, they came full circle toward the end, but yeah, they jumped right
I think
into
what
it.
helped the lack of mythology is the fact that it all took place over one night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have to explain it. It's only happening one time, so we don't have to explain all this stuff.
And that was my expectation. Like, as I saw it, I'm like, oh, they're not going to the next day. This is going to happen in this contained area, and they're not going to, give you the adventure of trying to get away from or get lost in the forest. No, this is all going down now, and I like that.
I like that. I was like about halfway through. I was like, we're still in the same night.
Yeah, we're
still going. I was
We've
like, oh,
not
okay.
seen daylight until the very, very
Yeah,
end.
I thought that was a good move.
Well, we got The Shining, Kevin. Let's go to a piece from you.
So after you took The Shining from me,
sorry.
the next one is The Fly. The Fly.
Yeah.
The transformations felt familiar.
That visually
see
they
that.
look
Visually,
Totally see that.
they felt familiar. I mean, the way he kind of, I think the one thing they did better than The Fly was probably able to, was when they would change the visual from a human being talking to him to he's looking at them as prey.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would have been pretty cool inside, of The Fly, like get that mentality. But the transformation and watching them, Leigh explain that both visually and, with VFX and all that, it was pretty good. And I imagine that's not easiest thing I've been a part of, I've seen, and it's hard to do in post and do it correctly and get it
I
to
love the
look.
auditory, the sound design.
Sound design is
With
fantastic.
changing it to like
Oh, man.
how your dog hears you when
Yeah.
you're talking to it. I was like, this is. I actually really dug that.
Spoiler alert, but the spider was like, I was like, oh, okay, that's dope.
I
that
liked
was
it.
pretty-
Yeah, I thought it
that
was
was
cool.
really cool. Like
Yeah.
but he really took you, and The Fly, it was in the 80s and 90s, so you really couldn't have asked for those type of things. But he took you through it as slowly as he was. So when he opened that closet, I'm like, is there going to be like a?
I think that's something
deer
that
or
some of
something
the.
like that?
I think it's something that some of the older films. I hate to say this because I love older movies predominantly, but that they lack. Newer films, sound design is really heavily leaned on a lot.
Oh, a lot of
And
Foley.
I really
Oh,
dig that about newer
super.
movies now.
And I think that's important. I think some people think this is all pictures, and that gives you the feeling. But what's that feeling of unease, silence, the right sound from the right animal, all the Foley art and the Foley designs type of stuff. That's the thing that sticks with you.
Yeah.
You remember that.
It sells everything.
It sells
absolutely.
everything for
Yeah.
sure.
Luella, let's go to one from you.
I mean, I thought the opening, for me, an obvious one, and with the opening and the forest and the fog, I was thinking Twilight, and then I thought we were going to get that more because the part 2 with Taylor Lautner and the werewolf character. So I thought that we were going to start to get more of that, but it went in a completely different direction. So.
Yeah, it went totally dark and totally just very kind of slow and whatnot. But I do think though, to bring Twilight into this, they're two very different takes on very established mythology. We were talking about so many different werewolf movies over the years. We know what werewolf movies are. Twilight went and kind of did something new with that, and this is doing
You
something
still
new
got
with
sparkly people though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
less
there was
sparkles,
sparkle.
please.
Sparkly skin in this one,
Sparkle.
Yeah, there was.
I definitely thought of Twilight when I saw the sparkly skin
Nice.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Nick, let's go to one from you.
I'm glad no one picked it. Night of the Living Dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
They're in a cabin. They're boarding up the windows. One of the family has become infected. Something's trying to get in and infect them and attack them. The truck and trying to get away and those types of scrambling situations, like in Night of the Living Dead, they're trying to get gas in the thing and they fuck that up. Sorry, cussing on your podcast. But a lot of those same situations happening of how do we figure this out? And even though it was a much smaller cast, it felt very much like a similar film. So yeah, I thought that was I was sure one of you guys were going to catch that one because I thought it was so obvious. But there's the boarding up when he started boarding up doors, I was like,
Yeah.
that's what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
So-
Well, I'll just combine right there with your Night of the Living Dead and go with the Evil Dead. The
I thought
first
about
one.
that too. Cabin in the Woods,
Cabin
man.
in the Woods.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
As far as the Cabin in the Woods as a place of safety, but no, it is definitely not. You know what I mean?
They keep flipping the switch on that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the next one I was going to bring up, and I think it's also kind of in that same kind of inventive spirit of a Sam Raimi, trying new things, it's certainly not as many camera tricks as a Sam Raimi would do, and not as many fun, wacky things, but certainly trying to inject a genre that we've seen before with some interesting new takes, and that's something that he's always trying to do with
And
everything.
something to capitalize on your Evil Dead. With Ash, when he becomes evil Ash, he kind of vacillates between those two.
Yeah.
Right? And it didn't happen in this film necessarily, but I kept feeling like it was going to happen.
Well, he does protect them from the other werewolves.
Does, but
so,
this movie plays a lot on, is he going to attack them or not?
Yeah.
You don't really know that that he has a higher, I feel like he's still teetering on the edge a lot, but when the stakes are higher of now I have to protect them, he felt like instigated to do that by the other Wolfman. But there are a lot of moments where he's thinking, and so I was like, are they going to have him transform back to the, but they didn't do it, but I definitely expected it to happen a couple times.
Yeah, no, for sure. Right on. Well, Kevin, let's go to one from you.
I have one that's a little less obvious, but at the same time, I just thought it was maybe it was a coincidence. But Ginger Snaps, his daughter was named Ginger.
Oh, that's good. I didn't realize that.
And it hit me. I was like, yeah, that movie was, a little girl going through puberty, and that was part of her prepubescence.
I was actually really hoping she was going to be the werewolf.
And I was like, wait a minute, is he? Because I was like, Ginger. What are the odds of you naming your child Ginger? There's no indication other than that. So I felt like a kind of and it's a good movie. So it's it felt like kind of a callback to that was a decently good movie for what it is and how it was explained and how it was written. It was really, really good. But I felt like that was like on purpose and in a good way, because if you ever see that movie, it's surprisingly much better than one would expect, given the subject matter and who's written it and how it's written. So
Wasn't
I
it
think
a direct-to-video?
Yeah, it was a
It was
direct-to-video.
really good.
It was
like
really good.
One of those better ones.
But
yeah.
they basically used their budget on production, and then they just went straight to video in 2020. It was like, that was it.
I've never actually seen it. It's a
actually-
werewolf.
A couple,
Yeah.
couple goth emo chicks, and they turn into werewolves. You know,
And it
standard
works out.
fare.
I was like, this is going to be crap. And I was like, oh my God, that's actually not that bad. It's not as terrible as it probably should have gotten at least something if they had the ability to do it. I thought it was pretty good.
It got 2 sequels,
Yeah.
a prequel and a sequel. But it's got that charm to it. Like, it is definitely a product of its time. The whole goth
Yeah,
emo girl type thing,
absolutely,
taking
absolutely.
pictures of themselves as if they're dead and stuff like that.
Nice. That's good.
But yeah, it's also a really smart movie in the fact that puberty, your body's changing, and
Yep.
she turns into a werewolf, and you're like, oh, this is definitely a fresh take on that.
Yep.
There should be a part 2, and it be the menopause part.
You know, that could be the 4th one. They've done 3 of them. That could be the 4th one. Yeah, that'd be
That
cool.
sounds like a good one. Absolutely. Luella,
Mom's
let's go to another one from
So
Luella.
I do have to say that going into this movie, because I didn't watch any like previews. I think I saw like one preview after you hit me up to be on here, and I've been so busy, so I hadn't paid much attention. But I just the other day watched Werewolves with Frank Grillo
hell
and
yeah.
Lou Diamond Phillips, and I was not loving it. So I was a little terrified to come in today. I was like, oh God, this is going to be so bad. But my next puzzle pieces would be anything Jordan Peele, because I felt like when they went from the Metropolitan, so the drive, that was interesting that you said The Shining, because I was getting that when they were driving in from like a more metropolitan area into like a woodsy country environment with less populated, and then 2, when they were coming up on the house after the truck fell over, it reminded me of Nope.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Absolutely. And I do like when Julia Gardner's like, she's basically outing us all.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean, she's like, she knows like we need to leave like now. Yeah. No, definitely a couple of good Jordan Peele references in there, and I think they could both fit really well in here. So definitely, I like that a lot. Let's go to Nick.
This might be, I don't know if it's not like a straight shot, but Texas Chainsaw 3D from 2013. She
3D.
inherits the house.
I knew you were a good man. I knew it. I don't know why, but I had no
She inherits
doubts.
the house, and there's an evil in the property.
Oh,
you know,
man.
and I really liked that they did that, but it felt like definitely a tit for tat with this movie as well. So
That's great. And I mean, that is a good like setup for any horror movie. But I mean, that's a
inherited
fun
this house,
one though.
There's creepy shit there.
Yeah.
Don't
You
open the door, please. Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't ever want to go to a house like that.
Nope.
Never.
Shortest movie ever if I'm in it.
I'm gonna go away from horror for a minute, although kind of a different kind of horror. I was thinking about The Father, the movie that Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for a few years ago, which is about an older man who's starting to go through dementia, and he just can't communicate with his family anymore.
Oh, wow.
And through the sound design, the production design, the set design as well, which is very maze-like and everything, it kind of puts you in his shoes and makes you just like also unable to like communicate, unable to like see any kind of communication between going in either direction. And that's something huge here with what Leigh Whannel is trying to like inject into this movie, is that loss of connection between him and his family. And so I think that might actually be something that might have been on his mind, especially using so much sound design like we've been talking about and trying to sell that kind of breakdown.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, otherwise I'd have something to say about it.
You gotta take me there, right?
Yeah, poor dad. He's on his way. But yeah. Let's go to one more from Kevin.
So I was trying to decide back, but I actually, given my connection to this movie, Velocipaster. Velocipaster.
Hell yeah.
And I'm biased. I know those guys, they're great, but I know they would have loved to have had the budget to been able to make those transformations not look the way they did. I don't get me wrong, I appreciate being a part of that in any which way, shape, or form. But yeah, it gives you, if you have the time and you want to make the sound design and that transformation look legit, and especially like what we saw on screen tonight, was it's perfect. It was unsettling. The sounds were unsettling. You know, they did a pretty good job. They didn't really skimp on any part of it. It was more like, okay, you know, when he was going full body, teeth coming out, like, you know, there was a little gore in there. Obviously, he kept it at a level where it's like, wow, this transformation is gross or crazy.
If I can capitalize on that, what's really cool about this movie, and I'm typically the guy that loves, like, The Howling is my favorite.
Okay, all right.
Werewolf film. So typically, I love a great transformation, a great costume, and usually the costume's doing the work or the puppetry's doing the work in those movies. It's all performance for this dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, mad props to this guy with that performance, because that could be so hammy.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything he's doing could like not sell in the worst way.
To that point, Ryan Gosling was supposed to be in this role.
No.
Yeah, and after the SAG strikes, he had to drop out because of timing and everything, and they got Christopher Abbott, who I love Christopher Abbott.
Yeah.
I love Ryan Gosling, although I can't picture him in this at all.
I can picture him in it,
Yeah.
but this performance is just, man, like he was giving it his all, and I bought it.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't letting the makeup do the work.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you really think about, to your point, he is one extra patch of hair someplace that this looks campy. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. Like, if he's fully hair, he turns into Teen Wolf, and it looks weird. But
I agree with that.
they really made it like, okay, this is what it would happen if this was
Almost like a
real
mutation situation.
Yeah,
going on.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
The Fly came to me the first time. But
Sure.
that mutation looked authentic because it's a little too much hair. You know, the realigning of the jaw, the teeth, the blood, that could have gone campy real quick.
And the
people would
transformations
have
over
jumped.
time.
And it's exactly.
It's not it's not like a cinematic moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which before we did this podcast, I was scanning articles, and one of them was like lackluster in the transformation area. So I was like, all right, this is gonna suck. Right. But actually it was really, I thought it lended really well to the film. The fact that they're like, no, we're gonna progressively have him develop as a werewolf and not just do it all at once. I thought that was really actually a smart idea.
Yeah. Well, Luella, let's go to one more from you.
Okay, I love that you said The Fly for the transformation. But last night, I watched A Different Man. And his
movie.
transformation was incredibly similar because it was the throwing up, the teeth coming out at the root. So basically, if you have these symptoms, you could turn into a really handsome man or a wolf. That's what I'm learning.
That's right. That's absolutely right. You can go in any which direction, or as we talked, zombies, vampires, whatever. But you can also become Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. 50-50 sounds really great on that. I'm not gonna lie.
Good odds. Good odds for sure. Nick, let's go to one more from you.
This is going to be more of a technical thing, and it's not like a correlation to the whole film, but taking it way back to like movies like Citizen Kane and stuff like that, when they would do fade to blacks, they do them practically with the on-set lights. And so their light movements in this, the first one where they isolated him from everything and they just kept the spotlight on him,
That was
they
cool.
brought the practicals down in shot. I was like, that's some old school shit.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
That's really cool that they're doing that. So, and if you, just another callback, Mank, which is about the making of Citizen Kane, to like call back to Citizen Kane, they do those practical fade to blacks in that movie as well.
I like
so
that.
when I saw that, I was like, that's an old school trick. I'm glad they're doing it.
Well, I mean, that is a really cool pull there with Mank and like the way that they kind of brought it back to the old school, which of course if you're going to make a Universal monster movie, you should be. That's
100%.
That's a big part of the
Obligated.
problem with the Mummy, with
Yeah.
the Tom Cruise Mummy, is that it's just a Marvel movie basically. You know?
like
But
you're really obligated to do it that way.
yeah, but to that point though, my biggest problem with this movie is where were the rest of the lights other than that one light?
Oh, it was.
Dude,
Yeah.
that
It
colorist,
did dark.
that's
It's the darkest movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
No,
I-
and we talked about this. This is something I feel really strongly about this. But what's happening now is the people that are, I'm going to get so much shit for this.
Probably. I see
People
where
that
you're
are
going.
in those professions, a lot of them are self-taught. It's not a standardized like apprenticing thing that's going on. And so your colorists, yes, they're shooting in a raw codec, so they have full flexibility. We saw the full flexibility with when he's in wolf vision mode and everyone's bright. So that they have the flexibility to bring it up, bring the highlights up. They're just not doing it. And so you have some guy who's a colorist that thinks that his highlights need to be at 50 or 60% instead of at 70 or 80, which would make it watchable.
Yeah.
And they think, and because they're shooting on these actually really bright calibrated monitors, they think that it's bright.
But realistically,
but they don't know that projectors actually do dim the movie. And I learned this on my first short film. We shot it in a like dark cigar lounge, and I didn't know anything about coloring, and so my highlights were at 60%. And then it was in a film festival, and I saw that it wasn't bright enough. You couldn't see anything, and I was like, well, I'm not doing that again. Now I know where my highlights need to be because projectors are dimmer. They're not like a TV or a calibrated monitor. They're just not.
Honestly, if I and you guys might laugh, but I really think this. Considering, it's Julia Garner, I honestly think they just took the person from Ozark and told him to color it. Because it literally looked
that
like...
stuff's brighter, though.
Yeah, and that's brighter. Because everyone has a color scheme that they are, she's known for that. Mm-hmm. There were scenes where I'm like, if you weren't watching this movie thinking Wolfman, this looked like...
Her skin tone was identical to what it is in Ozark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was
the way
like...
they lit it, yeah.
It was like completely... It was identical. So I was like, all right, I get what they're trying to do, but then when it was dark, it was over. Like, it was like...
There was a shot where they're in the basement and it cuts to her and she's got like a halo backlight. Yeah. And I literally had a moment of like, thank God for a backlight. Where are the backlights in these shots?
Yeah.
No one has any shape in any of the shots.
At the premiere, they were
have a practical bulb in the corner that gives a little bit of something.
At the premiere, they were giving out promotional Wolfman flashlights, and I was like, they should have given those out on set. It would have made the movie a little bit, better to see. But
that's good.
I want to open it up to the floor, see if we have any puzzle pieces out here from the audience. Did anybody think of anything that we didn't mention yet? Anybody got? We got one right up there.
Yes. Okay. So, first one was I actually have two.
Okay, great.
But one of them, because they didn't mention like silver bullets or anything like that, I thought of Monster Squad.
Hell yeah,
dude!
The fight scene where when the kids are being chased by
wow, that's a good one. I like that.
Look him in the nards.
I like that. That was a good one.
Yeah, I love it.
And the second one was because of the perspective change. When he was trying to listen to what they were saying, and then they would go back to the family.
Yeah.
When you would see his perspective, I don't know, that made me think a little bit of Predator.
That was literally about like
that's on my list.
One. Yeah, that was
the
on my list.
The garbled speech was definitely part of the Predator vision.
Yeah.
Also on my list. Also for that, I was gonna say, I kept wanting the smell like a cooked chicken and Looney Tunes to come off of the family members. That would have been like pretty good. But Wolf Vision, But yeah, great pieces there with Monster Squad and Predator. Any others out here in the crowd? Anybody got right up there?
I got a Saw when he chewed his foot off.
Saw.
Oh, with the bear trap.
He's probably calling back to himself intentionally.
That has got to be an intentional Leigh Whannel.
100%. That was pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. For anyone who didn't hear it, Saw, who was the same director, Leigh Whannel here. I think I saw another hand go up right over here.
Yep. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
Okay.
When they're on top of the greenhouse.
Oh yeah, and the raptor. Yeah.
That's funny. I was thinking about just Jurassic Park in
I was thinking
general.
Jurassic Park with the car, with the U-Haul.
Yeah,
and the situation. Yeah, just like the Ford
too,
Explorer and in Lost World when their truck, the trailer starts going over the cliff too.
Yeah.
That situation.
Yeah, but that's great though with Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, what a ridiculous movie.
That video, the Jurassic Park cat video.
A cat is almost a wolf, so.
It's so cute.
It is a really cute video. I think his name is Owly. But anyway, any others right over here?
I was reminded of Amityville Horror, just with the family dynamic of him like kind of showing the foreshadowed temper like flare-ups and then seeing that kind of like reflected in his transformation.
It really,
That's like,
really did go full circle.
I felt very similarly to you when I was like, oh my God, is he gonna like turn on them right away, or is he still having that like humane consciousness? You know?
Absolutely. It's a great one. And
I like
talk about a series that, has been kind of done over and over and over again in like so many different ways with all the Amityville direct-to-video movies and with all the werewolf movies, trying to do something different with it here. And I think that's
American
good.
Werewolf in London has that moment towards the end where it's like she can see that he's still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Right in that last scene. So I was like, oh, they're pulling back from that. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw my dad's hand go up. Let's see what this is going to be.
Is that when he started eating his leg, I got hungry.
Oh my!
So
I see
Dad
you
would like
walked into it.
a severed leg for dinner after this. So.
Oh, God. Give me a I know a guy.
Do
Don't
some
worry, I
severed
know a
chicken
guy.
legs. Those are good.
I'm sure we can make that work. So I actually have some Wolfman sweatshirts from the studio, and I want to give them out. I've got 3 of them, but I need people to give their best wolf howl in order to get them. So is anybody down to do that in order to get a sweatshirt? Here, do we have anybody?
I mean, you don't have to twist.
Right now,
you don't have to twist my arm.
I'm gonna point the
We
camera
can do it
at you.
together, man.
I've done worse for Mardi Gras beads, Jess.
Nice. There it is.
I believe it.
Leave it in. I love that.
Who's doing a wolf howl for us?
Oh, don't be shy. There he is, big fella.
Oh, look at that. That's great. All right, you're getting one for sure. Anybody else? We got 3.
You should do it.
Give that owl.
No, yeah.
What's that?
Fair for someone from
I
the
got one large. Yeah.
Wait, you got what? You got the largest? Okay, I'm out.
Where is it?
There it is. Yeah. I love it.
All right, one
Set him
more.
in his chest.
One more. Anybody? One more wolf howl. Otherwise, Gina's gonna do it.
Nick is
Gina,
fighting
your
yours.
turn.
Nick is fighting yours.
Gina's gonna do it.
I would, but I just don't feel like doing it.
All right.
I got a thing.
Sorry.
Hey!
All right, come up to me after the show. I'll get you your sweatshirts. All right, let's get into some closing thoughts here. Kevin, anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
So, I mean, honestly, it was really good to see. It feels like Universal kind of understands the budgetary limits of what they're doing. The first one was a lot of money. That was in 2010. This was like $25 million, and it was contained, which is Hollywood math, low money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it felt like they were like, okay, we don't need to dig deeper than this. So I really enjoyed that. At the very least, they sort of downsized not only the expectations, but how much money they spent. And I think they got what they'll make their budget back. I always like Julie Garner. I like seeing her going out and doing other things other than being known for Ozark. She's fantastic. And Leigh, he gets it. Give him all of the monster movies. I think it would be good for what they're trying to do. I hope they do not try to make a universe, as you said.
Yeah.
I get why you think it's going to happen in a good way, but it's been overdone.
Yeah.
So, but as a standalone, I enjoyed it. I was really surprised. And basically all my critiques are technical, so overall the movie was pretty good.
Right on. How about you, Luella?
I felt like the pacing was a little slow for me.
It was slow. I mean,
and you didn't really know what. I mean, it's probably a good thing because you didn't really know where it was going. But the pacing was just a little slow for me. And I can do a slow burn, but this just didn't really have the payoff I wanted. But it wasn't cheesy. So there was that because, like everything that you guys had already addressed, felt like the performance was really good. I felt like the transformation was really good, but
I hate
it
to
just
go on a date with her. It's a little slow.
I love when he's here. He makes me laugh so much.
he's not coming to the next one.
you know what, a win's a win.
Yeah.
I can take a compliment. But yeah, overall, it was entertaining enough to watch, but meh.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Nick?
I didn't look it up. Did Leigh Whannell write this or just direct it?
Both, I believe.
Both?
Both. I believe it's both.
I sound like a jerk. I hate to end this podcast on a downer, but you can't have this many people telling each other that they love each other. They got to show it to each other. Like it's a show medium, and I'm sorry, but even though his performance ran circles around their delivery of those lines saying, I'll always be here with you, I love you, it came off really heavy-handed to me. You got to show them. It creates scenarios that show them that, hey, I'm going to choose to get over whatever my problem is and love you demonstratively, and you'll have a greater impact than just words. But I felt like there was way too much of that, trying to sell it as like an emotional, sentimental moment, and it's just not. I don't know. In my opinion, that's bad screenwriting. I sound like a jerk, but it's hard. It's hard to write that stuff. You got to create scenarios where they have opportunities to show it and get over themselves. But that it would have elevated the film, in my opinion, if they had restrained from saying those things and demonstrated it more.
To that point, though, and this is something I kept thinking, and I don't know that it necessarily lands this, but I don't think they do love each other. I think that's part of the thing. Like they seem to all hate each other.
Yeah,
like,
well, that's what I'm saying. It didn't deliver because they weren't demonstrating it; they're just saying it. So it felt.
I think it
those
is
moments
empty.
felt counterfeit to me because they weren't demonstrating it really.
And he co-wrote this with I didn't realize, but he co-wrote this with his wife, and she's done a bunch of stuff with him. But to your point, outside of the movie itself, cool. But I did have like issues with the dialogue in terms of like
it was better that our Wolfman said nothing because his performance was amazing without any words.
Exactly. It was a lot more show in certain instances, but yeah, there were times with the dialogue they didn't do enough with the dialogue. They probably could have just done without.
And I catch myself when I reread stuff I wrote like a year ago, and I'm like, they're saying way too much here.
Yeah.
I got to fix this.
Like, let me just explain this or show you before.
Yeah, you got to show it.
Yeah,
and it's weird. It's a show not tell medium. But that's also like it's not just like showing a treasure map. That's like showing emotions and demonstrating your care for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Luella said, it's kind of slow, so they had to fill it with a bunch of character stuff. I guess
boring mumbo jumbo feelings.
So yeah.
Boring mumbo jumbo.
Those damn feelings always getting in the way. We have a hand up over here.
Yeah, that is the question. I do think that is interesting because you're like, okay, how am I overcoming this generational trauma by actually furthering and creating differently generational trauma?
Sure.
The woman is like trying so hard to be like, I'm not going to be like my dad, but then puts his family in a situation where now the little girl just saw her mother shoot her monster father.
Absolutely. And Julia Garner's character even says, like, I don't even know how to spend time with my kid anymore or whatever. Like, I don't think that she is, I don't think she's the best parent. She certainly didn't like her husband. Her husband didn't like her. Like, there's a lot going on there.
Where you could tell that she was jealous that, in the midst of crisis, that her daughter wanted to be with him and wanted care from him instead of her. You could, I just thought I was getting when she's got her arms crossed.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She's kind of bitter about it in the midst of a crisis. Like, oh, maybe this is not the time or the place for that. Right
Gina,
now.
you wanted to say something?
There were a couple of things. They're not puzzle pieces, but there were a couple of things I noticed. One was I thought it was really interesting. Well, the trailer made the movie look horrible. It seemed like they gave away the whole plot in the trailer, but it ended up not even being in the trailer. They show they're trying to get away from the husband, in the whole movie, but it actually isn't like that. It's half the movie, most of the movie, he's trying to help them.
I think that's good marketing, though.
And I thought that was really cool, and I thought that it was interesting to me that they showed so much in the trailer that ended up not being in the movie. And what they showed in the trailer just made the movie look really bad.
That's been a thing recently, like a red herring type of thing.
How's that going to lure people into the movie?
Yeah.
They turned me off. I almost didn't go tonight.
Yeah.
Another thing though is I'm wondering it could be an allegory for mental illness or something too.
No, I think there's definitely some of that, certainly, and
something that could have been interesting with this movie. They could have developed on that.
I mean, they really never said he was, Wolfman. They indicate they left you to assume without saying it, other than that opening stanza that they had. They really didn't.
He could just be an asshole.
Yeah, he could just be a hairless asshole. That felt wrong.
Problems, and the little girl obviously saw them fighting with each other a lot.
Yeah.
So did they have an abusive relationship?
Yeah.
And he inherited some of that.
Well, in the very first scene on the street, I mean, he's about to yell at his kid and
Exactly.
So I think a lot of that stuff is interesting. It's just not really explored enough.
It could have been deeper.
Yeah.
I'll say this one thing that I noticed that I thought was interesting and was the kind of contrast of different masculine characters in this, because his kid is kind of telling him what to do a good portion of the first act, and which is honestly, that's not a healthy relationship to have with your kid telling you what to do. You should be an authority that feels safe to them, right? So he's a little flimsy and a little bit of a pushover in some ways in the first act, and we compare it with this toxic masculine character that gets in the car that's kind of just doing what he wants and pushing people around. And I thought that was a really fascinating contrast to those two characters in that moment, right? Because neither of them are really occupying a happy medium of what it means to be a positive male figure, in my opinion. But then, when he's the wolf and he's the protector, he kind of is in that positive space of being a protector, masculine figure of the family. And I was like, that's actually interesting. We got him in, him becoming a beast, got him into this space where he's actually taking on the role that he should have instead of just yelling at his kid.
Or alpha.
Yeah, or instead of being pushed over,
Which
right? He
yeah.
takes over more of a nobler role. And it was kind of a cool thing that was going on between those kind of, that spectrum of masculinity that's happening in this movie.
Instead of it taking like his father's toxic masculinity, it went in the direction of being evolved masculinity.
Which gives it a lot more
it's weird.
weight.
He's a wolf, but it's kind of more healthy in the middle.
But yeah, like if you think about it, the kill of him killing his father and stuff like that, and in the wolf pack, you have your alphas and your betas, and in order to challenge, get to that point where you can challenge.
And in wolf packs, the young ones do challenge the elderly wolf. That is a
especially
thing
when
that does happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That brings you back to Twilight, Luella's piece.
But no glitter.
Scene though, that very last scene, do you guys really think that he would have killed them if she shouldn't?
No,
I think he's in pain. That was what I
He
got.
wanted her to.
He
put it out of his
he wanted to die.
Yeah, he's provoking
and
her.
they played,
so that she
and they
shot him.
played it to the point where he does that. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? And they did it a couple of times. So I'm like, all right, that's gonna come back around.
Yeah.
And then she was like, the daughter's like, he wants it to end, as if she's been doing that the entire time.
Sure.
So that
I
relationship.
thought that was a good moment.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was like that came full circle for me. It was
Absolutely.
Like,
That
was pretty
felt
good.
that felt rich to me. That
Yeah.
felt deep to me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You don't really see that in werewolf movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely some good stuff.
Sounds
in
like we
there.
don't see a lot of these things in werewolf
Yeah.
movies. I mean, our conversation took a total turn.
I'll say, well, there's only a couple movies I can think of where the monstrous, figure wants to be released of their pain. I would say Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes, that's my
It's,
first one.
Vlad, Dracula. He wants to be. You can tell he has kind of a release when he's killed.
Yeah.
And then Carrie with her mother, when she gets killed, you can tell that she's relieved as well
Yeah.
from being this monster. So I thought that was cool that we got a little bit of that in this movie.
Right on. Well, let's get to some plugs. Kevin, what do you got going on?
So let's see. I am at Instagram, codename _Leon. This year has been going to be busy, but I'll be having my first child in a couple of days.
Right.
So it will be busy not sleeping. Other than that, it's going to be a very busy year going to pre-production of my directorial debut as a feature later on in the year. So it's been going well.
Right on. Right on. How about you, Luella?
Oh boy. Always on Instagram. It's at Luella.Chavez. And one of my goals for this year is I'm going to finish my screenplay and hopefully we can start shooting. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Bucket list.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Nick?
I got a couple of them. Sin City Horror Club. That's the one you should follow because that's all about bringing Las Vegas horror community together. So we do some events on there. So it's just all one word, Sin City Horror Club on Instagram. My personal one is Ghost Chaser Nick, and then my film company is Ghost Chaser Productions. So all of those are spelled like that on Instagram, so you can find them.
Right on. Well, everybody, we will be back here at Downtown Cinemas soon. I can't quite announce it yet, but it should be next month. And also we'll be back at Maya Cinemas next month. So keep an eye out at Piecing Pod for all of our upcoming things. And thank you so much, everybody, for being out here tonight.
Woo!
Hi, this is Wax Trax Records here on 2909 South Decatur. We buy all your old 45s, your old albums, any type of music memorabilia. Also, we sell music memorabilia, albums, CDs, and a lot. Come on down to Wax Trax, 2909 South Decatur, or give me a call at 702-362-4300. Thank you very much.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Wolfman. Thank you again to Downtown Cinemas for having us out. Thank you to my guests, Nick Woods, Luella Chavez, and K.L. Martin. And thank you to everybody who showed up to the live show. It's always so much fun doing those, and that was a really fun one the other night. But also, thank you to you if you're listening to this at home. I really appreciate you being out there and listening. Make sure you are subscribed wherever it is that you're listening. We've got a lot of episodes coming. Honestly, so many episodes that I am having a lot of trouble with my scheduling lately. I've got like 6 episodes recorded, trying to find the right spots to release them. I also have like at least 3 recordings scheduled right now to actually record. So yeah, there's going to be a nonstop flow of new episodes hitting your feed. So make sure you're subscribed. You'll find out about all of them as I figure out where to place them. You could also follow me on social media at PiecingPod. Join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. Also, don't forget, we do have a Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. Lots of great stuff over there. So check it out. It's patreon.com/bydavidrosen if you want to help support the show. You can also support the show just by sharing whenever you see that we are doing something, whether it's just a regular episode or these live shows. Especially share the live shows, because we want to get more people out to the theaters, and that way we could keep doing the shows and keep making them bigger and do all kinds of exciting, fun stuff. So share, comment, like, comment, more shares, comment, like. Also, maybe join us for a show sometime. I'm always looking for new guests, so do get in touch. But yeah, let's close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And I have plenty of dark music from my many years as a film music composer. I mostly specialize in horror and thriller, so I have like dozens and dozens and dozens of tracks that would fit really well for Wolfman. But you guys know that I also, along with composing my serious music, I also make these silly songs about my pets under the name The Pup Pups. We have 3 albums out, and one of the songs on our second album, Variety Snaps, is called Little Bad Wolf, about our own little wolf man, Harvey. So I've got to play Little Bad Wolf to finish up our episode today. So this is Little Bad Wolf from the Pup Pups Variety Snaps, which came out last year. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
Something straight out of nightmare or a dream. And honestly, not even sure if you's a dog or a cat, but you're adorably cute, and I'm sure about that. Well, I'm a little, well, I'm mad, well, I'm a little bit bad, well, I'm a little bad, little bad wolf.
My little touch and I do my little dance. You look into my eyes, it puts you in a trance. It makes you do things that you wouldn't believe, like going to the kitchen and give me a treat. Well, I'm a monster barking at you, really scary for snacks. And Dad, you better think twice, not giving me what I ask. You know you love me, I'm your buddy, I'm your good little pup. But if you don't give me a snack, oh, I'ma eat you right up.
Well, I'm a little, well, I'm mad, well, I'm a little bit bad, well, I'm a little bad, little bad wolf. Well, he's a little, well, I'm a little, well, he's a little.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.